you. I want to really say that I am excited that you are here. I can't tell you how excited I am that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about our trip this year, 2021, to Kemet, that land that's been misnomered Egypt. I am really excited to be able to get back because with everything going on in the world, we were not able to travel in 2020. And we have actually done had a lot of discussion with the folks on the ground. We've estimated, we've really done a lot of research. We truly believe that everything will be safe. We'll talk more about this in a few moments. But I'm excited that you're all here because this is going to be an amazing life-altering experience. Mm-hmm. And so I'm truly hoping that you will all be with us. So let me go ahead and introduce myself. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jabari Osaze. Let me say Anka Ma'at to folks. I see Sanet Cheryl Lee on there. I know a number of you will know so many of you because we're talking to the family. Anka Ma'at to send Terrence. I see Terrence there too. Folks that we know that we might not have seen recently, so it's good to see you all. Let me just go ahead and pass things off to Anika. Oh, my name is Jabari Osaze. As you may know, and this is, I guess, important in this regard, I am a historian and I'm a Kemetic priest. So in many ways, what we will be doing is we will be merging together practice with history so that we will be able to have a really powerful conversation over the legacy of our African ancestors, over the contributions of those glorious ancestors who gave civilization to the world. And so with those credentials, I will be leading much of the historic aspects of your tour. You may know that Anika and I have had the wonderful honor of traveling every year, pretty much since 2002. So this year's trip will be our 18th trip. With the group called the African Genesis Institute, we have taken over 3,000 people, primarily of African descent, to the motherland and to Kemet. Something different happens when you go to Kemet. For people particularly who are interested in ancient African culture, going to other parts of the continent is really, really important. Making that journey is incredible, but going to Kemet is different because now you can actually put the pieces of an ancient story, a glorious story, which has not been described to the majority of people back together. And so you are going to be able to do that. You'll be able to feel the heat, the ancient heat, I would even call it, on your skin. You will be able to journey into the temples, the tombs, the monuments, and actually see with your own eyes, touch with your own hands, experience for yourself this amazing, amazing thing. And I have to say that it is one of the most wonderful honors that I have had in my life to be able to take people with us on this experience.
My name is Anika Daniels Osaze, also known as Informational. I am the co-chief priest of the Shrine of Ma'at. And I'm also the co-founder of the Center for the Restoration of Ma'at, which is one of the organizations that provides classes that teaches historical and information about ancient Kemet and other classical civilizations of Africa. So some of you might know me from the classes that I've taught. I am a linguist. I went to Cornell University for undergraduate school. I went to NYU for my master's in education, and then I continued to Northeastern for my doctorate of education. So I work at a medical school in Brooklyn. I do STEM education and STEM programming. And a lot of what we do at the center is to try and show the connection between our African ancestry and what we're doing right now. Yes, Dan. Go Big Red. So
must be Daniel Belgrade.
Yeah,
Dan B.
That's right.
What's up, brother? Haven't seen you in ages. That must be who the Dan B is, brother. We went to Cornell with.
So we're trying to connect all of the knowledge bases that we have between what we do in our day jobs with what our organizations are here for. And it's to bring back the knowledge of ancient Africa and ancient Kemetic history, language, spirituality, architecture, and art. So this is something that we will be talking a lot about when we actually get to Kemet this summer. And we will be trying to look at the monuments from different aspects. And that's why we're so excited to be partnering with Yoga Master Yasir Rahotep, who I see is also on the call. So we're going to defer to him and also have him do an introduction as well.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, because I don't see myself. But anyway, yes, Hotep, everybody, and this is Yasir Rahotep. Do I need to do something, like for you?
No, just tell them who you are.
Okay, my name is Yasir. My name is Yasir. Okay. My name is Yasir Rahotep, and I will be accompanying you on the trip to Kemet to teach, to share Kemetic yoga and the little bit of stuff that I know compared to Jabari and Anika about ancient Kemet. So I just look forward to it. We're gonna probably figure out a schedule where we can do some practices, as much as possible, as much as time allows us to do. We'll talk about some of the ancient Kemetic concepts of yoga and yogic spirituality. We'll talk about some of the benefits of the practice of Kemetic yoga. Kemetic yoga, you see it everywhere. When you look at the walls of the temples, you see yoga postures. You see people and you see the different images of divinity. They're doing different poses, and nobody ever associates them with yoga. And so what we did was that we started to practice these postures, and we looked at the different symbols, and we said, this is yoga. The postures, they have beneficial effects upon your health, your well-being. They help to align your spine. They help to stimulate the flow of blood and lymph throughout your body. They help to move. They help to move internal energy and life force throughout your body. So, so it's so yoga is everywhere in ancient Kemet, but it's the least place where people ever see it, even though it's all over looking at you. So and so they had. I'm sure they had a different name than the word yoga. We use the word yoga because that's the word that's most familiar to us. Just like we say the word martial arts when we talk about people fighting. Ancient Egyptians have martial arts too. So yoga is just a general term for practices that involve internal energy movement, meditation, and developing your mind and your body. And so that's what we're going to be looking at.
Yes. Can I say that our dear brother Yasir Rahotep is as humble can be. We have known him for going on for over 2 decades now, and I'm going to tell you that it's always humble. Yasir Rahotep is the world's foremost master of Kemetic yoga. We told you when we started, this is going to be a really unique, amazing experience. We are not simply going to talk about history. We're going to make the story of this Earth's most influential individuals practical to you today. That is what this journey is. That's why this trip is going to be different than any other trip. And many of the people from our community that are doing these trips, we know well, we love dearly. But our trip is going to be different than any other trip that you're going to see marketed. Because on this trip, you're going to hear individuals who are absolutely skilled, studied in ancient African history and the history of ancient Kemet. You're also going to see an individual who is skilled and knowledgeable about the language of ancient Kemet, something that really is unusual for people. And then you're going to see someone who is going to assist you in understanding how your ancient Kemetic ancestors shifted, mastered, galvanized divine energy within them. There is not going to be a trip like this. And so this is going to be really, really special, and we hope that you're going to be part of it. I'm going to say to you that Yasir Hotep, while being the Kemetic yoga master, is also, he's been vegan before people called it vegan, right? Before people called it vegan, he was vegan, you know, and so we're going to also be talking about some of those things that you can do health-wise that come directly out of our ancient practices. Now, you could honestly go on this trip simply because you have interest in any of the areas I talked about. But having the ability to get an understanding from all of those areas combined means that this is going to be a magnificent trip. So I want you to understand that essentially what we're talking about, before we go through some information and go through a short presentation, I want you to know that we are talking about our trip, which will run from August 1st to August 12th, 12 days. And we are going to absolutely see virtually everything that you have heard of. And I guarantee you a lot of stuff that you haven't.
Much more.
Very often when people do trips, I have a really good friend who said, I don't know if I should go on your trip because I want to do a Holy Land tour. Wonderful if you want to do a Holy Land tour. Wonderful. The challenge, of course, that I will present to you is most of those tours just go into Cairo, and you don't get to see the Valley of the Kings and Queens, for example. You don't get to go and spend time with the people in southern Kemet, known as the Nubians. You don't get to see that magnificent structure built by Ramses the Great that is misnomered Abu Simbel today. You're not going to see everything when you go on a lot of other trips. And I'll also say to you that we have also planned, we are going to also be taking a cruise. And so absolutely traveling down that magnificent river known today as the Nile, that we in ancient times called the Hapi, is going to be an amazing experience. Imagine traveling on the Hapi just like you get on a bus, a train, or in a cab, or in an Uber today. That's what this experience is going to be. You are going to get a sense for the spirit that ebbs from the land, that is best described in the relationship that people have with that sacred river. And so you are going to get history, you're going to get practice, and you're going to get language, you're going to get ceremony. This is going to be an amazing experience.
And some of the things that we've been able to do that's just been so impactful. I mean, there are people who have traveled with us who have renewed their vows. There are people that we've actually done full ceremonies for, people who are just getting married for the first time. We've been able to do it right there on the desert, you know, at the Nubian village. You know, the fact that you actually get to communicate with people in the villages and get to know people who look like you. Because as you know, ancient Kemet was conquered by many peoples. And the people that are there now are not necessarily related to people who were there in ancient time. But the further north you go, which you know as south, and that's a conversation that we'll get into, but the further north you go, the closer you get to your ancestry, the closer you get to see the people who look like you, the darker skinned African people that are actually there. So on traditional tours that you go with other companies, they tend to just stay in Cairo. They won't go to Luxor. They won't go to Aswan. They don't go to the places where the darker people exist because they don't find the same interests. We go and we spend time at the villages. We get to see the children. We get to make donations to the villages. We get to talk to the families. We play games with them. You know, we learn about the culture. We get our henna tattoos. We taste the food of the region. These are all the things that you will get to experience with us that you wouldn't experience anywhere else.
So with that, can we go through a brief presentation? Make sense? By the way, let me say to you, family, that I'm sure that you will have questions in a large number of areas. Some questions that are history-based, some questions that are language-based, some questions that are spirituality-based, all of those questions about movement and energy. We will be able to answer virtually all of the questions that we think you might have. But you may also have those questions about safety. You may also have those questions about price or about what are the things you might need to actually take this journey? All of those questions we will respond to. So please make sure that you have your pen and paper ready. Write down a few notes. If you have a really burning question, we can take some questions during the time. Specifically, if it's about something that we're talking about at that very moment. But please be prepared to write down your questions so that we're able to get into your so we're able to really address all of the concerns, all of the interests that you might have. So with that, Anika and Yasir, do you have any other things that you want to say before we do a quick presentation?
No, they jumped right in.
Okay. Yasir, looks like you want to say something. Are you good?
Oh, I can't even see myself.
We can see you though. That's the thing.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the presentation is, so I'll wait.
Okay.
Go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
This is just a presentation. I figured that what we do, because so many people would like for us to actually talk about history, I figure we talk about history just a little bit, if that's okay. This is what I've called Ancient Kemet, a guide to understanding Africa's golden empires. Let me ask you, how many of the individuals represented here can you name? Some of you took the Kemetic history course with us. You're probably ringers in the room. But how many of these folks can you name? If you think you can name them, let's put the names in the chat. I'm going to say to you that so many of these individuals are critically important to our understanding of, in many ways, the influence of ancient Africa on the modern world. I'm going to just give you one of those individuals. Do you see the gentleman all the way to the right? You can see he's a brown-skinned brother, a nice chocolate brother, milk chocolate brother with a small beard. Does anyone know who that individual is?
Type it in the chat if you know.
Type it in the chat. Let's see if you know who that person is. Interesting.
You're close.
Come on, Michelle.
I know a bunch of you. I think that's Anthony, yes. I think we see at least one person that knows. What was that last response? We got something from Brother Terrence, who actually is a ringer, right? Took a class with us. He's a ringer. So you should know that this person is Ptah-hotep. Ptah-hotep is the author of the world's oldest complete book. Just understand that when you actually are able to speak about the contributions of Africans to the world, very often people describe Africans as if they are people without great scholarship, as if they are people without literacy. And when you actually put your mind around the concept that this African wrote the world's oldest complete book, it is absolutely mind-boggling. 37 maxims on how to live a divinely balanced life, usually called the maxims of Ptah-hotep. We are going to go to the museum that actually has 2 life-size, full-color statues of Ptah-hotep. That's how amazing this journey will be. And Yasir and Anika can attest to this. When we get to the museum, they turn on the air conditioning. Now, I want you to understand the relevance of this. It is in the middle of the desert. It is not unusual for that area to get to far over 100 degrees. It could get to 115 degrees there, Fahrenheit. Yet when we arrive at the museum, they turn on the AC. Why? Because no one really goes there. In all of the years that we have been there, that Yasir, Anika, and I have gone there, perhaps we've seen 3 or 4 other people in the museum with us at the same time. And the book written by this man, you'll pick up a copy in any large bookstore in the country. But there's something that those versions don't have that I think you're going to be surprised at. Yes. You know what they don't have? They don't have his picture. They don't have his picture. And so it's going to be really important for us to understand that going to this trip is not going on vacation. Going on this trip is not like visiting. I've been to France. I've been to the Champs-Élysées. And people say those sorts of things to you. This trip is going to be a heavy investigative study tour where you're going to have lots of fun, but you're also going to learn a story that has been hidden from people like us for now thousands of years. Let's move. Now you might say, how in the world is Jabari going to talk about Richard Pryor after talking about an ancient story? Well, I want you to understand that some of the things that we are talking about have been pondered, have been conceived by people like us for a really long time. But this new movement towards the resurgence of understanding ancient African thought really has its origin really in the 80s. And one of the folks who first described it in a public forum was Richard Pryor. Maybe this is the reason why his show on NBC only lasted one season. I want you to take a look at this video. I think you'll find it very interesting.
Professor, I got it open. Good heavens, man. Great Scott, we've discovered all knowledge of Egypt and the entire world, you know. Do you realize the importance of this moment, Smith? Yes, I do. Do you see the brilliancy of the untold years? I see it, sir. This is medicine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What is this? See. Says, Kemet, this is the elixir of life, sir. The elixir of life? The cure for all diseases. Wait, see. Wait, there's a inscription on the bottom. Open at other end. This can't be. You know what this is? What is it, Buddha? It's the book of life. In the beginning, when man arrived on Earth, the black gods would leave their spacecraft, and they walked, and they named the beasts of the sea and the animals of the land, and man in his blackness did walk to Earth, making medicine, and discovered tech. These are all black people got down. Wait a minute. That's it. They ain't nothing here about white. This is ours. Wait till the brothers hear this. I'm gonna get this book out of here, baby. This tells me right team. Self-control, self-control. You mean look at this here. Black people discovered it, started the music and the brain surgery back in the year 3 BC. Man, they was getting down. This is it, brother. Everybody gonna know about this. Listen, we can change the history. Civilization will be changed. Yeah, it's gonna be it. Get the bulldozers. There's nothing here. Shut up. Good heavens, time for tea, eh?
Can can you imagine this airing on television in the early 80s? This would have been a controversial topic today. That Africans actually contributed so much to early civilization that there is barely an item of modern civilization, of modern accomplishments, that don't bear the fingerprint of the ancient African. And that is the story that Richard Pryor sought to tell here. Very important, very important. And so I hope that you enjoy that little comedic piece, but recognize that in many ways, that is exactly how the story has been misrepresented. Take a look at just this history of Kemet. Just the history of Kemet. And we can go back thousands of years. Thousands of years. So much was occurring on the continent of Africa long before there was another nation that had a recorded name. Did you hear what I said? That so much had been done on the continent of Africa long before another nation had a recorded name. We can start in the pre-dynastic era, in that period long before 3200 BCE. We could even go back to as early as about 9000 BC or BCE. And go forward. This first device we're seeing is actually a Nubian device, but actually has all the iconography of ancient Kemet, meaning that civilization travels from the interior of Africa northward. That piece called the Custal incense burner. We see the face of the man that put together Kemet, Namer. And we go forward literally nearly 3,000 years before we see anything of note in Europe. We have to get all the way to 332 BCE before the Greeks make any meaningful excursion into the area. And then 32 BCE where the Romans come, and then the year zero. So literally, I know that one of my greatest teachers, Dr. John Henry Clark, used to say, literally, the story of the European is an AD story. He's saying that the history of the African is so far and so expansive that the story of those people who are really in the most powerful position in the world today is that they are the youngest people on the planet. And then, of course, you see at 639 CE, that period over here at the end, where the Arab Muslim invasion occurs in Kemet. This is where those people that are the modern inhabitants of Egypt come into that space in large numbers. And so we're talking about the story of the ancient African in all of its glory. You will be able to see these things when you go. And why is it important? I want you to take a look at how misrepresented this story has been. This man here is considered the father of American Egyptology. And this is his statement in one of his most important books, The Conquest of Civilization. He says, the population of the great Northwest quadrant from the Stone Age onward has been a race of white men of varying physical type. The evolution of civilization has been the achievement of this great white race. That's his capitalization, not mine. On the south of the Northwest quadrant lay the teeming black world of Africa. His lack of capitalization, not mine. Separated from the great white race by an impassable desert barrier and unfitted by ages of tropical life for any effective intrusion among the white race, the Negro and Negroid peoples remained without any influence on the development of early civilization. This is how so many of us have been told the story of how we got to the stage, how we got to the period we are in today. That in fact, Africans were not those individuals who actually contributed to modern civilization. And this man is considered the father of American Egyptology. You don't have to just look at someone who writes in the early 1900s. Take a look at the representations we see today. This concept has not disappeared or dissipated. We're familiar with Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra, who was most likely a mixed race Greek ruler, coming at the very end of ancient African civilization. In some ways, you could say that when she comes on the scene, Kemet is already no longer an African civilization. It stood powerful for 3,000 years. Yet what they would like for you to do is look at the very end and believe that those individuals that were included in the end were the ones that actually created it. And I want you to recognize that even this representation of Cleopatra is ahistorical. How about the fact that you could just look at, I think 2014, the movie Exodus of Gods and Kings came out with Christian Bale and others who actually are clearly of European descent. And any person who was melanated, any person of African descent in the film, if you look at the IMDb page, everyone that was darker was depicted literally as a prostitute, a thief, or a servant. Everyone of stature, with John Turturro playing Pepe II, standing in the middle with the Nemes claw. With Sigourney Weaver of the movie Aliens as the wife of Ramses, the mother of Ramses the Great. Take a look at this depiction. And then, of course, didn't you hear Katy Perry's song where she portrayed herself as Katy Patra, which is also supposed to be a reference to Cleopatra. This is what we continue to see when we describe those Africans who gave civilization to the world. This is the way that they've been depicted. This is the way that it was represented in my schooling, and likely yours. This is the story that you will always hear, the story that's being fed to your children. Well, it's time for us to reconstruct an accurate portrayal of these individuals. You will be able to tell this story in a more powerful form as you actually see all of the artifacts in their location. This will be an amazing experience, an amazing experience. Take a look at the faces of these Africans. These are 4 rulers, 4 Nesubit, 4 kings, who actually were the most important rulers in Kemetic history. The one on the left is Narmer, the person that actually founded Kemet. And for all of the depictions of Kemet, right now, you know we have 700 to 800 channels easy on television right now. If you look at any moment of the day, there's a documentary on Egypt at any moment of the day. None of them will show you this man's face, the founder of Kemet, with a broader nose than anyone in this room, with higher cheekbones than the folks in this room, standing with a little smirk on his face, knowing that he is the most powerful man in the world, and he is about to give birth to one of the world's most important civilizations. We could jump forward several hundred years to the man that actually puts Kemet back together after its great fall, a man named King Mentuhotep II. Take a look at his dark black face, as black as the soil that comes from the Hapi River. This statue is so prominent that when people walk by it in the Cairo Museum, people of other ethnicities from all over the world, you will see them stare at it, and absolutely they will be startled and stunned, wondering, well, what are we looking at? Are these people African? Anik and I like to stand near the statue and watch the folks from other countries, from Italy, from Japan, from China, from France, walk by the statue and ask their tour guides in their languages, what are we looking at? Explain this to me. And invariably those tour guides start itching and scratching, because this is the story that has been hidden, the story of your ancestors. How about the next person, King Amos, who in the 17th dynasty, with his mother, leads a rebellion to bring Kemet back together? Take a look at his face. How do you misrepresent who these people are? And then finally, you're seeing King Shabaka, one of the kings during the Cushitic resurgence in Kemet. The Cushites are those people that we often call the Nubians today. And they were the individuals that put Kemet back together near its end. You are looking at rulers across over 2,000 years. Kemet was an African land. And that's the story that we will be telling. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through this. I do want you to understand that the depiction of the Kemetic people as anything other than African is normal and natural today. It's almost what we expect. Didn't you all see this Geico commercial? Take a look at it.
Huh. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Yep. Everybody knows that. Well, did you know the ancient pyramids were actually a mistake?
Uh-oh. Geico, 15 minutes could save you.
So not only did they try to misrepresent the ethnic makeup of those ancient people who gave us these great monuments, but they've even told you that they were a mistake. They've even told you that they were a mistake. Just understand that this story is one that is easily refuted with knowledge of what actually occurred during this period of time. And so we are going to really discuss so much of this. You're going to truly understand this story in its most powerful form. So many of the things that you are going to experience are absolutely going to be mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. So,
And so far, we've talked about some of the male rulers. We're going to learn more about the influence of women in ancient Kemet. I mean, everyone right now is all excited that Kamala Harris is our first vice president of the United States, the first woman vice president of the United States. But this is something that wasn't so uncommon in ancient Kemet. You know, we'll talk about Queen Hatshepsut, who served as king. We'll talk about Nefertiti and Nefertari and all of the women who were impactful in politics and in economics and different aspects of ancient Kemet. So that's something else that we don't learn in school. You know, you don't learn about women in politics. You don't learn about women and their influence in major countries. So it's important that we have these discussions as well.
So with this, I'd like to just show you a brief video interlude. It's just with a little bit of music. And you're actually going to see some of those individuals who gave Kemet its beginning, who actually did important things within this great nation. This is to inoculate you against the concept that Kemet is anything but an African land.
Are you sharing your screen? Because there's nothing visual.
Thank you, Sanandoni. Thank you, Butoni. I was not sharing the, oh, Monica. I did not share the screen. Hold on, let's bring it back. Ptah again. An image of Ptah. Actually, that's the Tsar. The queen of Mentuhotep II and Mentuhotep himself. Amenemhat I. The new script. Queen T, the Magnificent. The Lady Ahotep.
Women who served as priestesses in ancient Kemet. How many of you know of places now where they won't allow a woman to preach in a temple or a church?
Had to put an African queen with an African queen, right? So folks, I want you to really understand how important this story is, that it actually, told in its proper form, revolutionizes the way that we understand humanity. And it revolutionizes, it repositions the role of the African. And I want to even say that this is not just going to be a historical sojourn. We are also going to talk about a practical approach to understanding and applying some of the story of our African ancestors in our lives today. And as historian and co-chief priest, I'm going to say to you that there are those of you who are interested in Kemetic spirituality. So many of you are practitioners in this room. We're certainly going to be talking about that as well, as you're able to have a proper understanding of how the spiritual cornerstone of ancient Kemet served to actually give them the wellspring by which they created the rest of human civilization. If you tell the story of ancient Kemet without spirituality, you have not told the story. It was not a secular land. And so we're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to talk about the proper role and the concept of energy and divine energy. And even with so many of the things that you're going to be doing with Kemetic Yoga Master Yasir Rahotep, you are going to be able to begin to think about how your ancestors utilize their physical forms to reconnect with the divine. And so I'm really excited to be able to go on a journey like this with you. Bobby, you see you want to say something? Go ahead. Go ahead now.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that, first of all, prior show was in 1977.
The audio.
It wasn't. I'm here. Noise.
It's hard to hear you, Yasir.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to try to mute. Let's see if it helps.
Okay. Is that better? I keep hearing some kind of feedback. Okay, good. I was going to say, first of all, that video of Richard Pryor, that was from 1977 when this show was on. I watched it because I was kind of old then. But one thing I wanted to say was that there is when we go to the various temples and we go to the various sites in ancient Kemet, number one, many of those temples that we're going to even though they're very, very ancient, they are built on sites where there was previous temples or buildings or some type of a spiritual edifice there, right? Also, the places where they chose to build the pyramids and the various temples are places on the earth that emit certain types of energy that have an effect upon the mind, especially the subconscious of a human being. So they didn't. So they have many different reasons why they chose to build in certain places. It might have been the topography or the geology of the area that can support the building and so on and so forth, but also because of the energy that was being generated from the earth at these different places, right? And so, like, you can go to places like in Arizona, like at Sedona, and you can find places where they say there's a vortex coming from the earth and all this kind of stuff, right? And our ancient ancestors, they knew this. And so when you go to those different sites and you get the opportunity to do a little bit of meditation there, a little bit of breathing, a little bit of movements and postures, you will pick up on the energy right away. You know, most of the people that go to these places, they just come in, they walk around in a circle, and they look around and then they leave because they don't know what they're looking at. When we go there, like us Black folks, right, we immediately start to feel the energy. We immediately gravitate to certain places because we can feel this stuff. We are in tune to the vibrational frequency that is being emitted from these different locations. And so when on the with the groups that I've taken there, I just look up and I see somebody someplace doing some meditation, or they just disappear, and I say, "What would you at?" Well, I found this room, and I could feel this energy, and I could feel Sekhmet coming down into me, and all kind of stuff, And so people feel these things, they experience these things, and so that's why it's important. Like people, like you was talking about going to the Holy Land. This is I can't even talk because this is the holiest of holy, and and then when you go throughout Africa, you see the rest of the stuff. I mean, we have done things which are way beyond our own imaginations to even comprehend, and so that's why it's important that if you haven't gone to Africa, you should start off your journey to Africa, because I've gone to many countries in Africa, but I started off, my first country in Africa that I went to was Kemet. And then from going to Kemet to going to other parts of Africa, everything made sense because you see the connection. I was in Ghana in December, and I was teaching a bunch of kids, about 100 kids. And every time I looked in their faces, these are Ghanaian, Ghanaian kids. But when I look at their faces, all I saw was Kemetic images from Kemet that I had I went from Kemet to Ghana. And every time when I looked in their faces, all I saw was Kemet. When you go to different parts of Africa and you have traveled throughout Kemet, especially into Nubia, you see everything, every other part of Africa is represented there, because the people of Kemet came from where? They traveled up the Hapi River, up the Nile River, and they settled in Kemet. So Kemet was like the confluence of all the different peoples of Africa, and they went there and they founded Tawi, the United Two Lands. They founded the first United States, right? That had a confluence of all the various peoples that live in Africa. So you see all the facial types. When you go there, when you go to Nubia, you're going to see your cousin, your mother, your brother, your sister, your friend, Pookie, whoever, you see everybody, and, we're represented there. And so When you start off in Cairo, you're going to see more white, Arabic-looking people. When you go down to Luxor, go down further south, you're going to see more darker-skinned people. You start seeing, and then when you get to Nubia, you're going to see nothing but that's like you on 125th Street or you on 47th Street in Chicago.
I told you he was being humble, right? This elder brother has traveled all over the continent, all over the world, and has been assisting our people in reclaiming understanding of what our contributions were and are for decades. And so we are honored that we're going to be together. I'm going to say also that he's one of our best friends too. So we have a lot of fun when we're together. So we're really looking forward to doing this, having this experience again. It's been a while. Three of us have been together on the trip.
Let me say this too, Jabari, and then I'm gonna be quiet. But the value, if you know, there are many different ways. There are various ways of knowing something, right? You can go to the library, you can do your research, you can go on the internet, you can do, you can read, you can do all these different ways, right? But also going within yourself is a valid method of inquiry, of knowledge acquisition. And so the places that we're going to go are places that were the great universities of Africa. The various temples, they weren't just places where you go to pray, like you go to church and you pray. They were places where education was taking place, where knowledge was being communicated. And it wasn't being communicated just simply in a left-brained type of European way. Meditation, the ability to meditate, the ability to clear the mind, to connect with the universe, to connect with the source of where everything comes from, was an essential part of the learning process, because you wasn't just learning facts and figures. You had to learn the in-depth, deep spiritual insight that was behind and underpinning everything that, so it was beyond just learning the surface information, 1 + 1 = 2. It was a deep spiritual thing that you had to learn. When you look at the different symbols, when you're able to read them or do nature, like the way Anika can, where Jabari can, you're not just looking at, well, this figure means this and this figure means that. When you look at those images, you are picking up information which is hidden in the symbol. And you have to be in tune for that. You have to have a certain part of your mind and a certain part of your spiritual consciousness opened up to receive, to perceive, and to receive this hidden information that is in this hidden language that's existing there. And so when we go to these places, we're going to try as much as we can to be able to open ourselves up. And when you and while you are there, when you come back, you will be transformed. You're not going to be the same person as you were when you went there.
Powerful.
And some of the things that we don't even mention as much, but along with the history and the culture and the language and the architecture and the spirituality, there's a lot of shopping to do. And the reason I bring that up is that there are people who go who want to buy their jewelry, and they want to get what everybody calls a cartouche. And we teach you the first day that cartouche is not the proper terminology, that the ancient people would not be happy that you would call that piece of jewelry after something that was so negative. The cartouche comes from the word cartridge, which is a French term that represents an instrument of death. They're talking about the bullets in their actual guns.
It's like a magazine or a bullet hole.
Bullet cartridge. But the Kemet people, when they developed that symbol, it was called a shen. That was the appropriate ancient term for it. And the shen was a symbol of eternity. It was a symbol that really they only put the ruler's name in it because they wanted that ruler to live into eternity. It was a continuous oval, a circle that was tied and bound as a symbol of unity. So to take an instrument that's supposed to mean eternal life and call it by the name of something that represents death was inappropriate. So we also talk to you about when you're purchasing things, what they mean. You want to know what you're bringing home. You want to be able to explain it to your family members so that they can see what you learned while you're on the trip and why it has so much symbolism and value in your life. When you get your name in the Shen, you want it to be spelled correctly. The people in the country right now do not speak the language. They don't understand it, and they use cheat cards to try to spell things out for you, and they don't even know the structure of the language to be able to spell it correctly. So most of the people who come back from these trips, they show me their Shen, and they're like, oh, can you guess what this says? And when I read it to them, and I say, well, this is what it says, they're like, no, this is my name. I say, well, no, it's not, because the person who made it doesn't know how to read the language, and what they wrote was incorrect. A lot of times they get upset with me.
Yeah.
But at least you will have a better understanding because the language itself was spiritual. The language itself had vibration. The language was based on environmental understanding, connections with animals, connections with plants, connections with every living being. And for those people who travel to these places that don't know that, they lose so much. Whereas you're going to gain so much. You're going to be able to apply this to your life in so many valuable ways.
So why don't I just, we're going to open up for questions in just a few moments, because I know that you may have questions, but I want to show you something really quickly, briefly. And I think the reason why I've been moved to show it to you is because it, in many ways, it describes this synthesis of knowledge that we're attempting to acquire. Rather than just looking at this as a historical story, we're really attempting to understand its more important, it's more esoteric, it's more, the information that's more meaningful. Because you can actually go someplace and say, hey, I saw something built out of granite, and your family's probably gonna say, well, you got granite in the kitchen. Why'd you go 3,000 miles to go see granite? The challenge is understanding why. And so how many of you can name this amazing structure? What's it called? You could first give me the name that you know, that everyone knows.
Michelle said pyramid.
Merkut.
Merkut, yes. The ancient names for this would be the Merkut or the Mer. Most people know it as the pyramid. And of course, the word pyramid, one of the possible origins, historians argue that when the Greeks saw these amazing structures, it looked like the little rice cakes that they would put together that were kind of conical. They put together these rice cakes and they would put it on the fire when they were outside. And so for them, that the name Paramis became this. And so we have to recognize that as long as we are waiting to hear the story of what our ancestors did from people who don't understand it, we're going to be in a difficult situation. So let's talk quickly about some of the basic information, and then we'll go into more esoteric. You should know that this structure, known as Khufu on the horizon, Khufu and Akhet, because of the person that built it, is the only remaining of the 7 wonders of the world. All of the other wonders of the world have actually been lost to history. It stood at somewhere around 481 feet tall. And you should know that for over 2,000 years, it was the tallest building, the tallest human-made structure on the planet. It took 20 years to build. 20 years to build. It is made up of about 2.5 million blocks, weighing from 2 to 15 tons on average. And that part is amazing when you think about the concept that they were able to do this, move these amazing blocks to put together this structure. Without cement, by the way. They're just set, they're actually placed perfectly so they remain where they need to be. You should also know that in 1982, well, actually in the early 1970s, they were doing sonograph studies around the base of the Merkut, and they found 4 voids around the sides of the Merkut. They actually found a boat that had been dismantled in one of those voids. And as they took them out carefully, they said, they actually said, I hope that makes my audio a little better. I hope that's a little better, Brother Lee. As they took the pieces of this boat out, something amazing occurred. They started to say, well, it would be wonderful to be able to put this back together, but we don't have the instructions. As they took everything out, what did they find? They actually found that the instructions were there, and they spent the next decade putting the boat together. Are you all able to hear me? My audio is a little iffy.
Yeah, it's very muffled. It's like a treble. We can hear you.
Okay. And I think that most people are muted. I don't see anyone that's not muted now. Would it make sense for me to come back and go out and come back in? If it's really difficult, maybe that's what I should do.
It's been like that a while, so.
Yeah?
It's been like that a while. So
10 seconds. I'm going to go out and come right back in, okay? We'll see you in a second.
Two.
Can you hear me more clearly now?
Yes.
Better?
Two.
Sometimes that helps. Yeah, great. I'm glad that we did go out and come back in. Okay. So hopefully that will help. So I was telling you about the solar boat. When they actually found that boat and they spent 10 years putting it back together, they recognized that that boat was one of the is the oldest seafaring vessel, that they were able to put it back together and it can still sail today. It's an amazing, amazing find. And just think that just occurred in 1982. 1982. Now I know Jabari's getting old, but just put it, this happened during my lifetime, during many of our lifetimes, right? You should understand that this great structure, this gigantic structure, the Merkut, was constructed to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Amazing. And there's even a passage that is built to one of the stars in the constellation that we call Pleiades. And that star, the pole star, the main star, we're going to talk more about this when we get there. That pole star actually seems to align to a passage in a structure that is 481 feet tall, made of 2.5 million blocks. It actually aligns with this star when it is at its height at midnight. Just understand how difficult it would have been to build that. The coffin, or the Neb Ankh, is built out of one gigantic piece of granite. And you should know that people actually pilfered this great land when they got there, when later people got there. But the reason why that Neb Ankh is still there is that it is larger than the door. Now imagine what that means. That means that you cannot remove it. It means that they literally placed it and built around it. That is amazing. Can you imagine building a house after you've actually put your bed in it? How challenging that would be? This is the incredible architectural feat, engineering feat, that is the Great Merkut. And the outside of it, which we do not see much of today, was built with beautiful Torah limestone that was so highly polished that it would have been hard to approach the structure at during the noonday sun. You'd have had to shield your eyes because it would have been gleaming like a diamond in the middle of the desert. Now, much of that Torah limestone was removed by the Arabs who came into Kemet during the medieval period to build mosques and to build structures. And with all that we know about it, we still don't know how this great structure, the Great Mirkut, was built. There are lots of great theories, but we don't really know how it was built. We know that on the Giza Plateau, we see these three major Mirkuti, right? I want you to say the names of the people who built them. Khufu building the Great Mirkut. Say his name so he can continue to live. Then his son, Khafre. Say Khafre. And then his son's son, Menkaure. Say Menkaure. These are these three kings that build these amazing structures. And I want you to recognize that they were built with great intention. When you see an aerial view, you'll actually see that two of them are around the same size, although the Great Mirkut is larger than the one built by his son. And then there's one that's built that's much smaller, and they're not exactly aligned. Can you see that on the left? Can you see it's not exactly aligned? Well, historians used to say that that occurred because they made mistakes. When in actuality, what we are seeing is that they used literally millions upon millions of the heaviest stones on the planet. And they built them with such precision that they were mirroring the star cluster that today we call Orion's belt. That these are the three kings. These are the three kings that follow the star in the east to the birth of the sun. Actually, when you see these three stars align with the star that is known as Sephet, then when they align, you draw a straight line to the horizon, and you will actually see that is where the sun will rise after the winter solstice. We are seeing astrotheology at play in the most gigantic, most massive, most amazing form. So what we will do during this journey is we will talk about how and why, not just what. You can hear the what on many other tours, but you're not going to hear the how and the why. And so I want to say to you that we are going to have an amazing journey, one that I'm absolutely honored and excited to go on. And I want you to come with us because what you are about to experience is going to be magnificent. Once again, the trip is going to be August 1st to August 12th. Here's the flyer. August 1st to August 12th of this year. You'll actually see that the cost is $39.95. That is all inclusive. All inclusive. Okay. But you will have to pay some gratuities because we will pay gratuities to the folks there. Kemet is Egypt. I'm going to use that term intentionally. Egypt is a tipping society. We'll talk more about that when we get a little further down the road. And if you are going to take this journey, we need you to put your deposit in so that we are able to actually secure your space and purchase your airfare. We're so excited to be able to do this, and we hope that you're excited as well. At this point, we'd love to open things up for questions. And the three of us, Kemetic Yoga Master Yasir Rao Hotep, he just went out. And Anika and myself are here to answer questions for you. So please, if you have questions, this is a good time to ask it now. I think I see a question from Samaria. I have some logistics. What are the accommodations like? What is a daily itinerary? Will we have time to explore on our own? Those are three really big questions. Let's see if we can go through them very in a really detailed fashion. First of all, what are the accommodations like? You should know that when we first traveled, I was prepared to sleep on somebody's floor with a sleeping bag. I literally brought a sleeping bag with me. And then I had to lug it around as we stayed in 4- and 5-star hotels the whole trip. So listen, you're going to be doing a lot of work. Okay? You're going to be walking up and down and seeing amazing things. We want you to be comfortable on this trip. We're going to stay in every city we are in. We're pretty much going to stay in the best hotel in that city. And you're going to see amazing hotels. So we usually stay at, I think we're staying this year
Movenpick.
at the Movenpick in Cairo. It's a beautiful hotel with several pools. It is magnificent. You're going to stay even at a hotel when we get to Nubia, to Aswan.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to stay at a hotel that is an island in the middle of the Hapi. There's an island in the middle of Hapi. That whole island is the hotel. And there's this wonderful tower that you climb to, and you can see the entire city. It is amazing. We are going to stay in extremely comfortable accommodations.
And also keep in mind that the price is based on double occupancy. So everyone would be sharing a room. If you wanted to have single occupancy, there is an additional fee for that. So you would have to pay for your own room if that's what you choose to do.
There's an additional amount. You wouldn't pay for your own room.
Yeah, there was this additional amount for your own room. Or if you know someone already that you would like to room with, we would go ahead and pair you up with that individual. So if you already have an idea of who you'd like to have a roommate, you would add that on the forms that we supply on the website.
Now, let me say to you that so many people who are traveling on their own say, oh, I'm worried to have a roommate and all other stuff. In our experience, and we have taken over 3,000 people to Kemet. This is going to be our 18th trip. So let's just say we've done this a lot. In our experience, people tend to actually really appreciate the fact that they're roomed with someone because there's someone else to sort of be on the experience with, someone else that looks after you, someone else that makes sure you wake up on time. That kind of stuff happens. And so I know that folks that actually end up going on this trip together end up having relationships that really continue with them for the rest of their lives. The folks that were on the trip with us, our first trip in 2002, we're still very close to them. And so recognize that is what occurs. What's the daily itinerary?
Did you want to pull that up?
I don't know if I want to go through the whole, do you want to go through the whole itinerary?
I mean, we don't have to go through each day, but the question pretty much is, are you going to have time on your own? And the answer is yes. It is a very packed itinerary. We are going to be doing a lot of historical tours. We're going to have yoga in the mornings with your Yasir Rahotep, or even in the evenings, depending on what the day looks like. There is some travel within the country. So keep in mind, when we're on, you'll have free time when you're on the cruise, but we're going from temple to temple when we're on the cruise. So we'll be hopping on and off the boat to be able to see some of the monuments that are there. And then when you're in the Nubian village, there's plenty of time where you'll have your own free time. And like I said, sometimes we're playing with the children there, or we're shopping in the markets. There's a lot of shopping. I'll put that up front because it is a shopping society. There's oils, natural perfumes, carpets, clothing, jewelry. There's just so much there to purchase, and we would be going to different areas, and you would choose where you want to be and what you want to do.
Sure. You're going to want to actually do, I mean, the shopping is the kind of stuff that people, when we say shopping, it doesn't mean that you're going to the mall. It means that you're going to be going places to pick up things that you won't be able to get here, right? Mm-hmm. Things that you're going to be able to want to take back and share with your family members, or even, as Anika and I do, hoard in your home yourself. Anyway. Sanet Noni says, Abut Noni says, should I bring an empty suitcase? What we often do is we stuff a duffel bag in our luggage, and we never go with, you know, you can take 2 pieces of luggage yourself. We only go with one, and we have like a duffel bag in the other, so that we're able to fill that duffel bag. Now, I'm going to say that this is going to be our 18th trip. Every year we say we're not buying anything. And we do every year because it's just amazing. And you're going to see some things that you're going to want. Yeah, if you look now, you'll actually see the itinerary. This is on our website, centerformaat.com. You'll actually see the entire brochure. This gives you a good idea of what the entire trip looks like. Abut Noni also asked, will you need a visa? We will be taking care of your visa in the airport when we land.
Yes.
And the visas cost,
we bundled the taxes and the visas together, so the full price there is $150. So the visa and the gratuities we collect in advance, so that when we get there we can pay the tour guides and make sure that all the tips have been handled before we start the trip. So nobody's asking you for money and you're not obligated to have to give anything else when you're there. And the visa is stamped into your passport when we arrive in Cairo. So you don't have to get it prior to leaving.
There are some times that to go to certain countries, you have to like try to go to the embassy in the United States and go through that. It can be a little bit tedious. You don't have to do that at all for our trip. We're going to be handling that. So take a look at the itinerary. We're not going to go through each of those things. This is something you can get on our website. This gives you a really good idea of how everything will look. And you should know that you're really going to go all from north to south. You're going to experience a lot of amazing things. Okay, we also see.
The one other thing I want to mention is in terms of meals, you're going to have meals every day, primarily 2 meals, breakfast and dinner. We don't typically eat lunch because it's hot during the day. It's really hard when you're going to different monuments to try to eat, and even the time it takes to try to purchase items while we're out at the sites. But when you get up in the morning, most of the places are all you can eat buffets. Same thing for dinner. So that's also part of the itinerary that you should be aware of.
Yes. I also see, do we know more about the COVID travel requirements? Will this travel require vaccine? Are there any exceptions? Now, let me say that obviously we're in an unusual world during the pandemic, right? We really do believe that you will be safe. If we didn't think you'd be safe, we wouldn't be going. We didn't go in 2020. There was too much up in the air at the time. So we really do believe that you will be safe, and you'll even know that Yasir Hotep was just there in December.
That's right. I was just there. All you need to do is take a when I went there, all you need to do was take have a negative test before you left.
Within 72 hours of your departure, you need to take it.
And you can even get one at JFK if you need to, but you shouldn't do that. But in an emergency, they even give them tests. You can get the test at JFK.
And you should also know that by then, some of you may be vaccinated. So you'd also bring proof of that as well. So, and let's be clear, I don't believe at this point, there is no requirement for the vaccine at this point. I don't believe that there will be a requirement for a vaccine going to Egypt. I do not believe that's going to happen. What you will need though, is to prove that you're not infected. And that's through the test that you'll take.
But that could be both leaving the country and trying to return to the country. So when you're leaving Kemet or Egypt, you may also have to be tested on the way back. So keep in mind, and there's a cost for that. We are not responsible for those costs.
But we will help you in Kemet if that's what we need to do. We'll help you do that. Okay? Okay. Will the electrical outlets be different? Yes, they are different. And so, you want to answer?
Sure. Oh. We're going to have a full travel meeting for anyone who goes with us, and we're going to tell you exactly what to pack. Because a lot of people wonder, if you have special dietary requirements, you have to pack certain types of food, you have to pack water. We talk to you about all of those things. But one thing that's critical is we tell you what type of outlets, adapters to purchase, because that is necessary, especially in the hotels. Everywhere you go, you're going to need a special adapter. And some of them are universal. They could be used in multiple countries. Some you can get specifically for Egypt. I would get the one that's adaptable to multiple countries. And that's about $20, $15 to $20 that you can purchase at any electronics store.
If you get it on Amazon earlier, it will be much cheaper.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you about the electrical outlets. It's not a difficult thing to do. You just need to be prepared. We always go with one or two, with probably 2 or 3 adapters for us, just so we're able to, for Anika and myself. And once you have the adapter, for the most part, everything is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Will communicating back home be an issue? It actually, one of the things that we suggest is that you are using something like WhatsApp or any sort of voice over internet protocol, VoIP app, so that when you're on Wi-Fi, you can call. Now, let me say to you that many of your cellular plans probably include some sort of international plan. You should be aware of what it is, because there may be a charge and you want to know what the charge is. I'll tell you that as someone who is on T-Mobile, there's a small charge. I think we take on a slightly different plan, and there's a small charge for us to use our phones. It's not really expensive, but we often also use Wi-Fi to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
And that is not usually something that is difficult to do.
So in the lobbies of most of our hotels, the Wi-Fi is free. So you'll see people lingering in the lobbies a lot because they're making phone calls from there that they won't have to pay for. In your rooms, you can purchase a daily plan if you want to use the internet, and you can connect your phone that way. So it's up to you how much you want to spend. You can go on this trip and not have to take a lot of money. So
Right.
Keep that in mind. The exchange rate right now is 15 pounds to $1. So that means you could purchase a lot more in Egypt than you could purchase here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it really is a big difference. I'm seeing Sen Lee McCoy is actually saying how much for the COVID testing. Well, we have to give you sort of a partial answer. I'm not positive how much. Oh wait, Yasir, did you got your test in Egypt to go to Ghana, didn't you?
You're muted.
You're muted. Yasir.
Okay, here I am. And when I left Egypt to go to Ghana, I had to take a test, and it cost $125.
So that's usually what you should expect. Of course, if you're getting tested before you travel, there's so many places that you can get tested in the United States without any cost.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, before I left, I got tested for free.
right.
But two people on our trip, they didn't have their test results before they left. So they wound up having to pay like $150 or something like that dollars at JFK Airport. They got their test right away. But before I left, I got mine for free. But in order for me to go to Ghana, I had to take another test, in Egypt. So I took the test in Egypt.
Right.
But coming back to the U.S., they may be quiet. We didn't have to take the test coming back to the U.S. In fact, coming back to the U.S., I went through customs in like 7 minutes. It was amazing. We didn't have to do anything. We just walked through. But of course, we don't know what's going to happen between now and August because everything is in flux.
Right.
So there may be more restrictions. There may be more requirements. Who knows what it's going to be?
It sounds like the Biden administration is going to be asking for a negative test to return into the country. So we're gonna be monitoring it closely, and if it is needed while we're there, we're gonna facilitate you to be able to get your test. We're not gonna just say, I don't know how you're gonna get on the plane. You need a test. That would never happen, okay? Because we'd all need to do it, and we do it together, okay? So don't let this be something that scares you. We'll be able to do it. It will cost you a little bit of additional money, but we'll make sure that it happens.
Our tour company in Egypt, they're going to take care of everything.
Yeah.
So if we need to take tests, they're going to facilitate the people to come and give us the test. They came to our hotel, they gave us the test,
Wow.
and then we got the results back.
Yeah.
That's actually what I wanted to bring up. Our ground crew are absolutely amazing. We have known them for over 25 years, and we work with them every single year. And they serve us hand and foot. There's never a time when we ever needed anything that we didn't get. There are people who might have gotten sick on the trip for various reasons, like traveling diarrhea. They found us a miracle pill that now we actually collect and bring to the United States because it's not available here. So we looked on Amazon trying to find it, and people were trying to charge $300 a box. You can buy it in the country for $1.15.
It's about $2
or $2 now.
She's exaggerating. It's $2.50. It's expensive.
And I tell you, if you were sick that minute, within a day and a half, it's all gone. Whatever traveler's diarrhea you have, it's gone. So they were able to find that for us. They will find, if you have dietary restrictions, they will make sure that they find ways of you eating. There is nothing that they have not been able to resolve. We had an on-the-spot wedding. We were notified that somebody wanted to get married the next day.
The next morning.
And they asked us to officiate the wedding. And they were able to get the restaurant set up, the decorations, the flowers, everything.
The cake, the gazebo,
everything overnight and have a beautiful wedding the next day.
Yeah.
So these people know that we have a lot of requests and they make us happy every time we go. We have never had a problem.
Well, since we've been traveling with them for so long, they're really close friends now. So we trust them implicitly, and once you get to experience them, I'm sure you'll feel the same way.
Yeah.
So we are going to make sure that you're going to be fine. I'm concerned about keeping your oxygen tank charged. Yes, Sinette, Cheryl, there are outlets everywhere. There are outlets everywhere. There are going to be outlets on the bus. There are going to be outlets in the when you get to the plane, there'll be outlets. It's hard not to. Now you on the plane, it'll be a U.S. outlet, which is interesting to me. You don't need the adapter.
You don't need the adapter.
But in the hotel and on the buses, you're going to need your adapter, and we'll make sure that you're fine. We will absolutely make sure you're fine. We would not allow you to be anywhere where you wouldn't have access to electricity. That shouldn't be a concern. And we're going to take a cruise too. You'll have it there too. The longest you'll be without electricity is when we're taking sort of the small boats to villages and back. But that shouldn't be an extended period of time either.
So we have a question. How about staying hydrated? Can you get drinks along the way? Very good question. Buses always have water, and they give you 2 bottles of water a day gratis. And then the other bottles you pay for throughout the day, but they always have bottles of water in a refrigerator on the buses. All of our buses are air conditioned. They have bathrooms. They have full fridges packed with water. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing I should add about drinks. Drinks are not included with your meals. That's something you pay for typically, except for 1 bottle of water that's shared amongst 4 people. So they'll give you a 1 liter and you can pour it out into your glass. So that's the one thing you don't have to pay for. Water you'll be able to get pretty easily. And it's purified water, or it's not tap water.
It's bottled water.
It's bottled water.
Yeah.
We tend not to drink the water there because it will make you sick. So we advise people to drink bottled water only. And even in some areas when brushing your teeth, to not use the water. But again, we'll talk about all those things to make sure that people are safe and that they don't have any issues.
Yes. Do you need to take any vaccinations? There are no vaccinations required for Kemet. There are other places that we go to. When we go to Ghana, we have to take the yellow fever and also the malaria pill. The yellow fever shot lasts like at least 10 years now. They're even thinking that they're going to make it last longer. But for Egypt, there is no requirement. No requirement. Other questions?
Hopefully that means you're all ready to go.
I see a bunch of looks on your faces are. I was thinking something I don't remember. You should know that if you have questions, shoot us an email and we'll be able to answer it very easily. This is an amazing experience. Be ready because I think that what you're going to absolutely get on this trip is going to be life altering. I know that it has been one of the most amazing experiences of our life. And we really hope that you will join us because you will be changed.
One thing that I do want to mention, I noticed there are people on the call who are not from New York. So we are leaving from JFK in New York City. So if you're coming from another city, then you'll be responsible for your airfare from that city to JFK. Same thing when we return, you'll be leaving JFK to go back to your own city. So we ask that you keep that in mind when you're making your accommodations. We try to get to the airport very early. So the flight tends to leave at 6 o'clock. We get to the airport at 2 o'clock. And there are several reasons for that. One, because if there has to be any testing done, you need the time to get that done. 2, we do early check-in at Egypt Air so we can maximize the types of seats that we get. So if people need to make arrangements to sit next to someone, or if they need to rearrange things, we're able to do it because we get there early enough to do it. 3, we try to verify the meals. So some of you might be vegetarian or have special meal requirements. We try to make sure that we have all those arrangements done in advance. But if we get there early enough and there's a problem, we can resolve it. And 4, we just want to get through customs. Through TSA. So, you're taking off your belt, you're taking off all your jewelry, and you're trying to get through. For those of us who don't have the quick entry, you know, and you have to go through the long period of time trying to take off everything and then repack it. We want to make sure we have enough time to get through the airport without problem, that we don't miss our flight. And believe me, the time goes by very quickly. And then when you get to the other side, there's places to eat, there's a shopping mall in the airport. So there's still time for you to do last minute pickups. I know some people who have forgotten to get their adapters, they need to purchase it at the airport, what have you. So that's why we try to have maximum amount of time for people to arrive so we can get all of that taken care of. So when you're making your arrangements for another city, make sure that you're trying to get to JFK at least by 2 o'clock. And that's Eastern Standard Time.
Any other questions? We want to be able to let you go on with your Saturday, but we're hoping that this means that you will be joining us, because it's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to it. Last year felt unusual for lots of reasons. One of those reasons is because we didn't travel last year. And so this year we're looking forward to getting back on the continent and experiencing the heat of the African sun. Let's put it that way.
Oh, wonderful, Felicia.
Dwa, it's good to see you in person, or see your face. Let's put it that way. Good to see you. Wonderful to see you. Wonderful to see you.
We just have to say we're so excited. This has been a life-altering experience for the two of us. We didn't realize that we'd be going to Egypt every single year, and we love it. And every time we go, we see something new. We learn something new. We meet new people. We have friends there that are very dear to us. We've been able to marry couples and do all kinds of incredible yoga stretches right there in front of the Merkuti, right in the desert, right in the tombs and the temples. I mean, this is something that your friends don't experience.
Yeah.
This is something that you'll be able to share to others, and they will not really even understand what it means. It's very impactful. It's very powerful. And it even changes how you look at the world when you come back home.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited to go with you. There's so much information to share. Just learning about our ancestry, learning about our people and what we were able to accomplish. There's nothing, like Jabari said, that we did not bring to civilization. You're going to see the first writers, the first doctors, the first lawyers, the first nurses, the first kings and queens, you know, everything that they didn't teach you in school. And these are things you're going to be able to teach your children, and your children can pass it on. And this is something that's it's really important to us. And that's why we do what we do, because we want this information to get out.
So with that, folks, we're going to say Ankin Ma'at, Shema Matep to you. We truly hope that you'll have the rest of your Saturday will be amazing. We have recorded this, so we'll post this video on our Facebook page so you have access to it. Okay, and you'll be able to take a look at it. Obviously be edited, because we had some of the nincompoops in the beginning try to hack our meeting. We'll make sure that you have access to it. And we really hope to see you all soon.
Sure. And please make your deposits as soon as possible so that we can secure your airfare and we don't have to worry about trying to get extra tickets. As the time goes on, if we have to get extra tickets, it costs more. So we want to try to guarantee your price as it is right now.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, family. Shema Matep. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Good to see you. Take care, Dan.
Dua.
Bye.
Dua, dua.